I have been blessed enough to find such a peaceful and quiet place. I was just thinking, I was like, man, I get the question pretty often, and I mean, it's a bit counterintuitive to know. And so I was like, how awesome would it be to take this time while I'm out here in such a beautiful spot to tell you guys about how I get power. My van is completely self-sufficient. I have solar panels up on the roof, well, a solar panel, I used to have multiple, and then I have 2 lithium ion phosphate batteries, and then on top of that, a Blue Eddy power station that is essentially backup power and a backup generator. And a little bit later in the video, I'll tell you why I use it and especially how it comes in handy. So for starters, we gotta step outside. So if we step outside, it is a little bit tough to see while down here, especially because the van is so tall, but on the roof of the van, I have 1 big solar panel. And so that big solar panel is essentially the bulk of my power. I get about 420 watts maximum at its peak in solar, and that really has been a game changer for me because I used to have only 200 watts, 2 100-watt panels up on the roof. So I'm gonna try and get you guys a better view of what this panel looks like. I installed it on the roof. I did not film it, but I installed it a different way than I installed my other ones. This one is installed on Unistrut that is just basically mounted in these rain channels that are on the roof of the van. And then I put another Unistrut on top of them. Some people only do the one. I could have done it that way as well, only doing 1 Unistrut and then mounting it on top of those. But at the time, I wasn't thinking that it would work because it'd be too close to the ceiling because the ceiling is curved. And so I did it this way. Both ways work. One way is cleaner than the other. I do want to kind of switch it later, but that's a whole nother project. Yeah, the roof, it might be a little dirty. I know. And now for the rest of the explanation, we have to come back here to the back of the van. Damn, it really is beautiful out here. Really nice out here. Essentially, out the back of the van, this is where my battery bank lives. And when I was building the van, I talk about this a little bit. I was keeping it very intentional and very accessible because it's my first time doing electrical, it's my first time doing plumbing, it's my first time doing basically everything. And so what I wanted to do was make sure that if anything broke, I can get to it easily, quickly. I didn't have to shift panels, I didn't have to be in a crazy weird angle. I can get to it straight up. So for me, my electrical panel is still a bit exposed and it's still readily accessible. And honestly, if you're wondering what this is behind me, it's a diesel tank, it's not pee. But honestly, that's been a complete game changer for me because being able to, I say game changer a lot, dog. It's been damn near revolutionary for me. And so with having my electrical panel exposed, it's allowed me to test things, wire things in, remove things, change things around, because as I've been learning, my system's been learning, and my system's been changing. So without further ado, let me show you guys my electrical situation. And here it is. Bow. I'm gonna have to come around so that I can talk to you guys and point things out. All right, so we're under my bed now, and as you can see, I can kind of kneel, and I'm usually just sitting up when I'm down here because it's a lot more comfortable that way. And that's another reason why my bed is so high, because I figured I was gonna be down here if anything happened. Like, of course you could do your research, but you don't really know until you know. And so, yeah, I was like, I figured I might need to come down here to work on things, in which I ended up having to do actually this morning, because last night there was an issue, a random issue that popped up with the Blue Eddy and charging it. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but let's break down some of these components. So here is a Renogy 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter. And so essentially what that gives me is that gives me the ability to plug things into a house outlet, which is your regular 120 volt outlet that you can plug in all types of appliances. If you have a microwave, you can run in a microwave. I would recommend you get a bigger inverter, maybe a 3000 watt inverter, because microwaves pull on average 1500 watts, but this is all technical talk. And so I have a 2000 watt inverter because I don't have a microwave. The biggest thing that I have is an electric kettle, and that pulls, I think, 1200 watts. And so when that's on, I just make sure that maybe my fridge isn't running and things like that, because it doesn't need to be on for very long. And so our pure sine wave inverter is wired directly to the batteries. And right now, the only reason why they're wired directly to the battery without a fuse is because of what happened last night. I had a fuse blow on me for the first time, I think, ever actually. One of my fuses blew. And the reason why it blew is because I plugged my Blue Eddy into charge last night because I had used it all day and forgot that I was using it all day. And so it was pretty low on battery, so I plugged it into charge. And I usually have this ignition protected 175 amp fuse sitting on the battery connected to my inverter so that there's a fail-safe if anything happens. But last night, the Blue Eddy was pulling, I think, 1,400 watts on turbocharge, maybe 1,200, 1,400 watts. It was pulling a lot of power, and then my fridge kicked on. So the initial jump for the fridge is like 500 watts, and then after that, it dulls down to like 40. Long story short, that put the Renogy 2,000 watt sine wave, pure sine wave inverter at its capacity. If it's a little bit windy and hard to hear me, I'm sorry. But I opened the door so that we can have light back here because it does get a little dark under here. But yeah, so that blew essentially the fuse, and that's the first time it's happened to me. That big bad boy's been on there for over a year, and it's never had any issues. But I've been charging this Blue Eddy now off of the battery for less than a year, so of course that makes sense. Moving on. This is a bit controversial, and I'm going to hear about it in the comments, but I have two 100 amp hour lithium batteries, and so the reason why they are different companies is one was a sponsored battery. Golden Mate sent me out their Orion 1000 as a tester, and I used to have a Renogy battery in here, but it just was failing on me, and I just noticed that there was differences in the voltages between my new battery, which is this battery at the time, versus the old, which was a Renogy that was here. And so that was an issue that I ran into off the jump, because when I was first getting my batteries, I had bought them from Facebook Marketplace, and so there was no reliability towards how new they were and if they worked very well. And so I found out the hard way, and of course the long way, that certain things you don't need to try and get the best deal on, because you can shoot yourself in the foot later on. Fortunately, I got sent out this sponsored battery from Golden Mate, and it's been phenomenal. And then on top of that, I bought this 100 amp hour lithium battery from a guy that I met off of Facebook Marketplace. He's the same guy that sold me my table, actually, that I used to build my van. So it's a lot of talking. Let's move on. This is our DC to DC charger. So in some people's setup, you see a lot of those blue guys. I personally couldn't afford too many of them at the time, and so I just knew I needed a DC to DC charger, because there's no way I'm running wires directly to my alternator. I wasn't essentially that savvy when it came to electrical work. I knew just off of the videos I've seen, the walkthroughs that I've seen, that one of these is necessary. And so I bought the 30 amp DC to DC charger, and so that puts out about 360 watts, giving me 360 watts when the vehicle's running. When the vehicle's off, they're smart chargers, so it just turns off completely and doesn't drain your battery. It's wired directly to my battery, because my battery gets an instant voltage kick when the vehicle starts and is running. And so, again, as I mentioned, they're smart, and they know essentially when the vehicle's running, turn on, turn off. That's all that is to it. This big bad boy up here is, that big bad boy up there is our 40 amp MPPT. So that is our solar charge controller, and that helps me manage the charge that I have on the roof. At first, I used to have a 20 amp solar charge controller, but once I upgraded my solar panels, I need to upgrade my solar charge controller. And so, fortunately, it was a direct swap over, because I bought a Renogy charge controller at the first one. So the second one, I just bought another Renogy charge controller. It was like $100, direct swap over. And then after that, we just have some of our breakers down here. These were really interesting to figure out how to wire. I had never wired breakers, like I've mentioned. A lot of this was a first. And so when I came down to wiring these breakers, I was like, all right, how do you do this? Because I see I have our 3-stranded cable with a positive, a negative, and a ground. How do I plug that into these mini breakers? I couldn't find a video on it. And so I literally just sat one night, and I actually prayed on it. I sat one night, prayed on it, and I was thinking, and then I was like, and then I just got hit with the idea. I said, oh, thank God. Boom, that's how you do it. Plugged it in, tried it, and it worked. Now, did I electrocute myself at any point of this process? Yes, but that was not because I was messing around with things. That was because I was literally holding one of the battery terminals as I was touching something else, and it shocked me. It was a little buzz, you know what I mean? A little, ooh. had to shake it off. But electrical work in your van is not something you should fear for lack of knowledge. Definitely the easiest way to learn things is to practice and to see it be done. But for myself, I'm a visual learner, so I need to watch a video and then I tried it. So along the way, as you can see, as I mentioned, this isn't the cleanest setup. Like, there's professionals out here that do this stuff all day, but for me, it's in front of my face, it's loud, and it's functional. Along the way, I have these ignition protected circuit breakers that you can just kind of trip yourself. Just press them, they shut things off, and then a big battery shut off switch down there. Overall, that's been perfect. Like, if anything trips along any of those lines, whether it's coming down from my solar, whether it's coming from the vehicle's battery when I start the van, it'll trip one of these circuit breakers. But the only one that didn't have one of these circuit breakers was the connection from the inverter down to the battery. And so that's what left me with a little bit of trouble last night. You know what I mean? I just had a little bit of a whoopsie, a little accident. But so let's jump back a little bit and I'll basically show you what I see, and so that I know that I'm getting charged from my solar panels, and basically the way that I check those boxes, knowing that I have enough power, knowing what power is coming in, and then moving on. So if we get out from under the van, under the bed, now I can just show you guys this little battery health monitor. I hooked it up to the battery, of course. You would just essentially need to hook up the negatives of the battery, and I believe possibly a positive, I'm not too sure, I did it a while ago. But it gives you this little screen here. Mine's kind of tucked away, but you see it flashing. So that shows that we're getting 312 watts in. It's a rather sunny day, 23.5, 23.6 amps, and that is essentially powering the battery. Saying that it's at 100% charge, which is actually true. Sometimes it's a little bit faulty, but right now it is actually true. It's been at 100% charge today. And the reason why it's pulling in so much power is because it's pushing out power. Because what I do, instead of having external little like flexible panels that I throw outside or portable panels, I just literally plug my Blue Eddy into my 120 volt AC outlets inside of my van and charge it that way. I have it plugged in. It's pulling in about 360, 350 watts, pushing out around 100. I have my Starlink hooked up to it, my fridge hooked up to it, and then Joy Room's portable power station. And as you can see, it's charging. It will take 4 hours to be at 100%. And as I mentioned earlier, there are different settings on that bad boy. And so last night, I made the mistake of plugging it in after I had plugged in the power station at my mom's place. And at my mom's place, I can go up to a turbocharge of pulling, 1,000+ watts. No issue, because it's plugged into the grid. And as I mentioned, this is a complete off-grid setup. So I do not have available to me as much power because my inverter is only 2,000 watts. And I know I've been throwing around a lot of numbers. I know I've been throwing around a lot of amps and a lot of watts, but bear with me, this all comes together. Long story short, I just ended up blowing a fuse, and it really showed to me how important it is to know your system. So whether you've built your van, whether you're interested in building out a van, or just really if you're in your house and you have a bunch of appliances, they're stacked all up onto one of those power surge strip protectors, and you're just plugging stuff up, it's really, really important to actually know how much power things take. Because if you're looking at a bill one day and you're like, why is this pulling so much? Why is my bill so high? It's possibly because you just have way too much stuff plugged in at one time. So with being off the grid like this in a system that I built from scratch, it's taught me a lot about power and power consumption. Like right now, I'm running my Starlink, I have my laptop for work plugged in, I'm charging things, I have essentially all that I need right now. My fridge is plugged in, I have all that I need right now plugged in and charging only from the sun. For me, as someone who grew up where we were worried about certain bills, that's completely wild to me that that's a resource that we have. Let me go and close this door because it's letting in so much cold air. But yeah, that is completely wild to me that that's a resource that we have. The fact that you can literally plug your whole life, essentially, all your electricals into something that's being powered by the sun is again still so wild to me, because do we have to pay for the sun right now? No, it's free. And so with that lowered my dependency on needing to be plugged into shore power, which is essentially plugged into like the grid. and my dependency on needing to be, you know, in an area where I have accessible power at all times. And so for me, that's been a game changer, because I get to have places like this as my office space, because I have my own internet and my own power. I would love to do most of this video outside and walk around, because I've been in the van a little bit today. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's pretty windy. And if you know anything about New York, it gets cold. I'm not used to this cold. So yeah, if you have any questions like how long can I be off the grid, essentially as long as I have water, because power isn't an issue anymore. I was parked in the city for a day or two, where I was just parked outside of my mom's place, and I essentially drained my battery down to like 40%, because between the buildings, I had only a limited access to the sun. And shout out to Felix. I have an interview with Felix. It's accessible through the SKOOL community group. And this guy, he's been building vans, he's been doing the thing for many, many years. And he basically told me in person while I was with him, he was like, look, Mike, I understand that you may think you don't need more than your 200 watts, because at the time it was sufficient for my 100 amp hour battery. He was like, you may, that man kayak blowing away. He was like, you may think that you don't need more than 200 watts, but you do. Because in times like that, where I was parked in between buildings, and I only had access to the sun for maybe an hour or 2 hours while it's passing over, you want to zap your solar panels with as much power as possible. What's that going to do for you? Help you stay off the grid. Because in places like Oregon, where Felix is at now, they may get rain for 2 weeks straight, and you're cooked. If you're only getting like a little bit of power, you're absolutely cooked. And so that's one thing I'm going to take and move forward with on my next van. I'm going to have this big old solar panel array, and then a bigger battery bank to charge and store this power, because man, small minds think small, but big minds think big. This is my office, you know, like that's wild to me. As someone who has worked in an office and will soon be going back to working in an office, there's an update there for y'all. I'll tell you all about that later. This is like wild to me. Like I can just sit here, door open. Now, mind you, it is windy and a little bit cold, but sit here, door open, and this is my office. I have access to this little bay. If I had a kayak, I would go out in there, but this cross breeze is insane. It'd probably push me way over there, and I would not have the strength to come back. If you have any questions about where I'm at, I'm not gonna tell you. You wanna know why? Because I gatekeep. I'm a gatekeeper. I take extreme pleasure in you not knowing where I'm at. Not for the fact of so you can pull up and surprise me. No, this is my spot now. I've commandeered it. So you're gonna have to enjoy from over there. Sorry, buddy. So I'll tell y'all where I'm at. I'm at the beautiful Floyd Bennett Field. It's a retired airstrip and airfield. So there's these big hangars that are all around. It's still being used a little bit for training purposes by like the Navy, and then a little bit like I've seen some police cars rolling through here. And then just as I mentioned, like there's people riding their bikes. Like he has his motorcycle, they have their motorcycle, there's another motorcycle way back there. Like I 100% will be doing the same thing. And me, no, I don't gatekeep. You guys know I don't gatekeep. If there's anything that I know, I'm gonna share it with you all. And so yeah, I'm at Floyd Bennett Field, and I was here yesterday, actually. I came here yesterday, and it was a place so nice I had to see it twice. But yeah, I just really felt like it would do some service to share with you all how I stay powered up on the road. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to plug this van in ever. Ever since I changed my solar panels, which wasn't the longest ago, but ever since I changed my solar panels to having 420 watts just in that one panel, everything has changed for me. Like I don't ever have to worry about my battery. I used to always check my battery. And so with both of those batteries that I have, they both have apps that you can check the battery life. Remember what I said about if I had a kayak, I'd be getting pushed? My man is struggling. My man is struggling. His buddy out here, stressed. Big stressed. But he's fighting for his life right now. There's only so much you can do when this current is this strong. and this wind is this strong. I'm not laughing at him, I'm laughing with him. But yeah, ever since I changed the solar panel on the roof, it has really opened up like so many opportunities of being out and about so much more. Like, I remember at times I would literally have to turn on my van so that I can use my DC to DC charger so I can charge my battery, because the solar panels just weren't pulling in enough power. And I did keep it kind of hush-hush because I was like, I don't want to have to go up there and change them, and I don't want to have to do all this extra work. It was so very simple. It just took a day, actually. So I may be rambling on, but this is something that I'm actually really excited about because it's free power in a world where damn near nothing's free. I'm not the solar guy on YouTube. I'm still learning. There was still a lot of things that I messed up and did as I was learning, so that's why I like to share and document this journey with you all. But overall, yeah, that's how I charge and stay charged up on the road. That's how I keep my van powered. I have solar panels, I have a DC to DC charger, I have the Blue Eddy solar generator, and then I have the sun. So all of those kind of work together. Nothing has really given me any issues besides my small little wiring issues, like being cheap with buying the wrong gauge of wire. I've had wires burn on me, yes, and thank God they didn't burn the van down. But other than that, took my time to set up majority of that wiring situation. I originally wired my van to run off of a Blue Eddy, but the Blue Eddy that I bought emitted this really high pitch frequency, and I could not stand it, and I feel like it almost made me sick one night. And so I pulled that out, but since I wired up my van at the time to work with both a Blue Eddy or batteries, because when I bought my solar panels that I used to have, my solar panels, my battery, my charge controller, and my max fan, I bought them all from somebody from Facebook Marketplace for like $500. And so I was like, okay, shoot. And then I already had the Blue Eddy because I bought that because I was like, I'm not dealing with an inverter and a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I got all the things, you know, my inverter, as I mentioned. So I got my inverter, battery, at the time it was a gel battery, the AGM battery, max fan, and solar panels, and the solar charge controller, all from somebody on Facebook Marketplace for like $500. And I was like, shoot, I was like, shoot, this is a great deal, so I'm gonna take it. But at the time I was like, you know what, just in case I mess something up, I wanna have something as like a secondary. And so I had bought the Blue Eddy, and that's again what I had ran everything to initially. So long story short, kind of all full circle. I have another Blue Eddy in the van, but all my power is coming from my lithium batteries instead of the other way around. It's really been a journey, and one that I enjoy, and it's allowed me to be places like where I'm at now. I hear the seagulls screaming. I'm next to the water where I love to be, and I'm having, you know, a good day. Started off a little bit rough, but it's turning around for the better. So let me get back to some of this work, and I'll catch up with you guys in a little second. I also did buy a little steak and egg and cheese sandwich because I'm here in New York. So I'm looking forward to munching on the rest of that. I was sitting and working, and I was like, man, did I eat? No. And I have a really good habit of not eating. And so I was like, you know what, let me stop and run and grab something to eat because the day was just flying by. But yeah, so let me show you guys what it's talking about. I already ate half of it while I was driving because I was starving. But check this fella out. I bought this guy here. It was a couple bucks. If you know me, you know I love my lemonade and I love my tea. So I bought this guy right here. It's actually really, really good as a combination. So that is its, you know, rest in peace that side. It's still hot, nice and warm. It looked a lot better earlier while it was fresh. But this guy is pretty good. So here we are. Because I'm able to be off the grid and work, fortunately I have, you know, my Starlink, and if I didn't have my Starlink, I would have a hotspot internet. I have my internet. I have my power that I'm getting from the sun, which is directly above us right now, so I should be getting damn near a full charge, and I'm good to go. Able to work wherever. Now, of course, all that's contingent on if you have a remote job or not. If you need help with getting a remote job, I do offer resume tailoring services. So if you need help there with getting a remote job so that you can live like this, Hit me up. I don't gatekeep. You put his foot in this. That little bird got a boosie fade. I'm gonna get back to some of this work. Why do I look so twisted up in this bad boy? He swung his body. But I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Mike signing out. Stay good, stay faithful, stay blessed. I'll catch you.